The world stood still for a moment. Cameras flashed, screens glowed, and the air carried the weight of a continent's expectation. From every corner of Africa, from the red earth of the Sahel to the coastal lights of Dakar, millions waited to hear one voice. The voice of a nation that had chosen to speak not in anger, not in fear, but in conviction. My fellow citizens, friends of Africa, and partners across the world, the president began, his voice calm but steady. Today, I speak not only as the leader of a young nation, but as a son of a continent that has carried the hopes, burdens, and lessons of centuries. He paused. The silence of the hall felt alive. For decades, Africa has been the beating heart of the world's progress. Our minerals build cities, our oil fuels industries, our soil feeds millions, and yet too often the rewards of that labor have not returned to our children. Too often we have been told that our future must be written elsewhere, in boardrooms and in capitals far beyond our borders. He leaned slightly toward the microphones. That era is ending. The applause that followed was not thunderous. It was deep and heavy, the sound of people recognizing truth. When the room quieted, he continued. Recently, during discussions with representatives of the United States, including former President Donald Trump, the question of our nation's resources was raised. Offers were made, proposals discussed, figures drawn. Some saw in these numbers the promise of prosperity. Others saw the shadow of dependency. He let the words hang for a moment. And so we were asked, would Burkina Faso be willing to part with 60% of its gold and oil reserves in exchange for investment, infrastructure, and security guarantees? The audience stiffened. Cameras zoomed in. I want the world to understand, he said evenly, that this question was not an insult nor was it a threat. It was a mirror, one that reflects how the world still perceives Africa, a continent to be bargained with rather than partnered with, a land rich in gifts but poor in voice. But today we say respectfully and clearly, our resources are not for sale. He raised a hand not in defiance but in emphasis. To President Trump and to the great nation of America, we say this with friendship. Africa seeks partnership, not permission. We honor the United States for its innovation, for its democracy, for the ideals that have inspired so many around the world. But those ideals, liberty, self-determination, dignity, must also belong to us. His tone softened. We are not rejecting friendship. We are redefining it. True friendship is not measured in contracts signed under pressure or deals written in haste. It is measured in mutual respect, in recognizing that a sovereign people have the right to determine the destiny of their own land. He walked a few steps along the stage, the national flag behind him rippling gently. This moment, my friends, is not just about Burkina Faso. It is about a continental awakening. Africa is young. More than 60% of our population is under 30. They will not inherit the world of our past. They will build a world of their own. They are watching how we act today, whether we bend or whether we stand. He looked toward the audience of diplomats. Let me be clear. We are open to collaboration with every nation. America, China, Europe, our brothers and sisters across Africa. We welcome investment, technology, and knowledge, but our partnerships must uplift our people, not undermine them. We cannot continue to export raw wealth and import poverty. We cannot sign away the rights of future generations for the comfort of a few. A murmur of agreement moved through the room. Our ancestors traded gold for mirrors, and we learned. We traded diamonds for weapons, and we learned. We traded sovereignty for loans, and we learned. The lesson has been long, painful, and costly, but we have learned. Never again will Africa's wealth be a curse to its people. He paused, drawing a deep breath. To those who say that our stance is radical, I say, it is not radical to demand fairness. It is not radical to insist that our children should benefit first from the treasures beneath their feet. It is not radical to imagine an Africa that is self-reliant, confident, and proud. He turned back to the cameras. To President Trump and to all leaders of powerful nations, we understand your interests. Every country seeks advantage. Every nation seeks growth. But we too must seek ours. The future cannot be built on old hierarchies where some decide and others obey. The new world must be one of equals. The hall erupted in applause again. Longer this time, fuller. A shared affirmation that echoed through the marble walls. As the noise settled, his tone deepened. We extend our hand in peace. We want American technology, American education, American entrepreneurship to find a home here. not as owners, but as partners. We want exchange, not extraction. We want cooperation that trains engineers, not contracts that drain resources. We welcome those who see Africa not as a market to exploit, but as a partner to respect. He smiled slightly. To the investors listening from New York and Washington, you are welcome in Burkina Faso, in Ghana, in Nigeria, in every corner of Africa, if you come in honesty. Because in honesty, both sides grow. In exploitation, both sides fall. His eyes met the crowd again. Some have said that by refusing such offers, we risk isolation. But what kind of isolation is it? When you stand surrounded by your principles. True isolation is when you lose yourself to the will of others. A pause. We have been told again and again that to develop we must trade our resources cheaply, open our markets blindly, and accept terms that were written without us. But I ask, what nation in history has ever achieved greatness by surrendering its dignity? He let that question linger. None. And then his voice softened once more. America's story is one of independence, of a people who stood against empires and declared that they would govern themselves. We admire that courage. We share that dream. When we say that Africa's resources are not for sale, we are not turning away from America. We are following its example. The audience erupted, not in anger but in understanding. The link between dignity and democracy was clear. The history of nations is the story of choices. At every turning point, leaders must decide whether to serve convenience or conscience. For too long, Africa's choices were made under duress, dictated by foreign interests, shaped by colonial inheritance, and bound by systems that kept us dependent. We inherited borders we did not draw, debts we did not choose, and markets we did not control. Yet within these constraints, we found resilience. We survived. We endured. And now, we rise. The question before us today is not whether we have resources, for Africa is blessed beyond measure. The question is whether we will continue to allow those resources to define us in the eyes of others rather than empower us in our own. When a nation possesses gold, oil, and fertile land, but its people remain poor, it is not because destiny has failed. It is because decisions have. And those decisions from this day forward must be ours alone. There are some who may misinterpret this as hostility toward the West, or specifically toward the United States. That is not the case. The United States of America remains a symbol of ambition and innovation. Its history reminds us that independence was born through courage, sacrifice, and unity, principles that resonate deeply with Africa's struggle for self-determination. We respect that journey, but we also recognize that every nation must be allowed to follow its own path toward freedom and prosperity. Partnership must be built on equality, not on pressure. When representatives came forward with proposals that would place the majority of our national wealth under foreign oversight, we listened carefully. We did not respond with anger, but with reflection. What does it mean for a sovereign nation to surrender control of its oil, its gold, its future? It means to sign away the voice of generations, yet unborn. It means to replace freedom with dependency, and to trade tomorrow's strength for today's illusion of comfort. That we could not accept. Our decision was simple but profound. The wealth of our land must first serve our people. Not investors, not distant economies. Our citizens must be the first beneficiaries of the blessings beneath their soil. And this principle is not unique to us. It is universal. No American president, not even Donald Trump himself, would ever sell the soul of his nation's prosperity to outsiders. So why should we? Still, we must be fair. The world today is interdependent. No nation, however rich or powerful, stands alone. Cooperation is essential, and we remain committed to it. But cooperation cannot mean submission. It must be rooted in fairness, transparency, and respect. If the United States wishes to work with us, to share technology, training, and investment, the door is open. But the keys to that partnership will be honesty and equality. We do not seek conflict. We seek clarity. We are not fighting against nations. We are fighting against the systems that perpetuate imbalance. We are saying to the world that Africa does not need saviors. It needs partners. Partners who understand that growth cannot be measured merely by GDP, but by the dignity of a people who stand on their own feet. When we speak of sovereignty, it is not a slogan, it is a responsibility. To govern our resources wisely, to ensure that our children inherit not exhaustion but opportunity, that is the meaning of independence. It is easy to declare sovereignty in words, harder to uphold it in policy. But we are prepared for that challenge. We are building alliances that are not based on domination, but on mutual benefit. We are working with nations that respect our agency, whether they are in Africa, Asia, or Europe. Or, the age of single masters is over. The age of balanced partnerships has begun. To my brothers and sisters across the African continent, this moment belongs to all of us. Burkina Faso's decision is not isolated. It is part of a continental awakening. From Dakar to Dar es Salaam, from Kinshasa to Khartoum, the winds of change are blowing. They whisper the same truth, that Africa's time has come. For too long, we were told that our unity was a dream. But unity is not a dream. It is a necessity. Divided, we are markets to be exploited. United, we are a force that commands respect. This new vision demands courage, the courage to say no when the offer looks tempting, but the cost is sovereignty. It demands patience, the patience to build industries, develop skills, and establish systems that serve our people first. It demands faith, faith that the world will one day see Africa not as a source of charity, but as a partner of progress. And above all, it demands unity, because no single nation can face the global stage alone. When we stand together, no ultimatum can intimidate us. When we share our resources, our knowledge, and our strength, no blockade can silence us. The attempt to pressure us into submission has done the opposite. It has united us. And that unity will be the foundation of a new era. Some have accused us of turning eastward, of aligning with powers like Russia or China. But let us be clear. We are not turning east or west. We are turning inward, toward Africa itself. We are looking to our own capacity, our own potential, our own destiny. If nations like China or Russia offer us fair terms, we will listen. If America offers us fair terms, we will listen. But if any nation seeks to own us, the answer will always be the same. No, our goal is not isolation but independence. We are ready to engage the global economy, but on terms that preserve our dignity. We invite cooperation on renewable energy, on education, on healthcare, on technology. But we will no longer accept deals that strip away our control. Those who fear an independent Africa misunderstand us. We do not seek to rival the world. We seek to belong to it, on equal footing. Let us remember, too, that America itself was built on resistance to unfair control. Its founding fathers stood against distant powers that taxed and dictated without representation. When they declared independence, they were not declaring hostility, they were affirming identity. That same principle guides us today. The language of sovereignty is universal. It speaks through history, through sacrifice, through every nation that has ever said, "We will govern ourselves." That is why our stand is not anti-American, it is pro-African. It is not anti-globalization, it is pro-fairness. It is not anti-progress, it is pro-dignity. We believe that the world is stronger when every region contributes on its own terms, when development is shared, not imposed. Our message is simple. Respect us as equals, and together we will shape a better future for all. Ignore that respect and history will leave you behind. Africa's era of quiet submission is ending, and a new chapter is being written, one defined not by extraction, but by empowerment. We stand at a crossroads. One road leads to dependency, the other to destiny. And the choice this time will not be made for us, it will be made by us. We must understand that in every generation there comes a moment when silence becomes betrayal. For Africa, that moment is now. To remain silent while our resources are negotiated away in distant boardrooms would be to betray our ancestors who fought for freedom, and our children who depend on us to protect their inheritance. We will not allow history to repeat itself. The days when contracts were signed in secret, when our gold and oil were exchanged for empty promises, must come to an end. The light of transparency must shine upon every agreement made in our name. When offers come with conditions that compromise our sovereignty, we will respond with clarity, not anger. We will invite dialogue, but we will also insist on dignity. When former President Donald Trump or any leader of the United States speaks about Africa's potential, we listen, because America's voice carries weight in the world. But when that voice demands ownership rather than partnership, we must answer as equals. The message is simple. Africa's friendship cannot be bought, and Africa's silence cannot be coerced. There are those who will say that such firmness risks isolation. But isolation is not the same as independence. A nation that stands for its values never stands alone. Already, new partnerships are forming across the global south, where nations once marginalized now trade knowledge, resources, and technology on equal terms. From renewable energy projects in North Africa to infrastructure corridors in the Sahel, the continent is no longer waiting for permission to progress. We are creating our own momentum. This transformation is not a rejection of America or Europe. It is an embrace of balance. We want American engineers to teach alongside African scientists. We want European technology to merge with African innovation. We want trade that builds both continents, not one at the expense of the other. But to achieve this, the old paradigm must end. The paradigm where contracts are written abroad and implemented at home, where profits leave the continent while debts remain. We must move from extraction to collaboration. When the news first broke that external powers were seeking control over a majority share of our oil and gold reserves, some within our borders felt fear. They asked, can a small nation truly resist the weight of global influence? To them I say yes, because sovereignty is not measured by size but by spirit. A nation that knows its worth can never be small. The true test of leadership is not in wealth or weapons, but in the courage to say no when no one expects it. Africa has often been portrayed as a land of need, a place waiting to be saved. But we are not waiting. We are building. Across this continent, young entrepreneurs are turning ideas into industries. Farmers are harnessing new technology to feed millions. Scientists are developing vaccines and medicines tailored to African realities. Artists and filmmakers are telling stories that reach the world. These are not the signs of a dependent continent. They are the signs of a continent awakening to its own strength. When I speak of awakening, I do not mean arrogance. I mean awareness. The awareness that every barrel of oil and every ounce of gold represents an opportunity to build schools, hospitals, and industries that serve our people. The awareness that our minerals are not curses but catalysts. And the awareness that if we allow others to define our value, we will forever remain undervalued. Some may wonder why this message needed to be directed toward a figure such as Donald Trump. The answer is that his approach, like that of many before him, symbolizes a mindset, the belief that power entitles one to possession. That mindset has shaped global relations for centuries, often leaving nations like ours at the mercy of others' ambitions. But today we are rewriting that relationship. We seek engagement, not entitlement, respect, not rivalry. When a leader stands before his people and declares that their land is not for sale, he is not opposing the world. He is defending humanity's principle of self-determination. Every nation deserves the right to make its own mistakes, to chart its own course, to rise or fall by the will of its citizens, not by the dictates of foreign interests. That is the freedom we claim. We have seen what happens when sovereignty is ignored. We have seen nations rich in oil become poor in stability. We have seen gold-laden hills surrounded by poverty-stricken villages. We have seen aid packages that give relief but steal autonomy. Those lessons have been costly. We will not pay that price again. The decision to safeguard our resources was not made in defiance but in duty. The duty to protect our people's future. We understand that our stand may unsettle markets, that it may draw criticism or even pressure. But history does not remember those who bowed. It remembers those who stood firm. Every great nation has faced moments when it had to choose between comfort and conviction. We have chosen conviction. We extend a hand of dialogue to America, to Europe, to every nation that believes in mutual respect. We invite investment that builds our capacity, not weakens our independence. We welcome technology that empowers our youth, not binds them in dependency. The door to partnership remains wide open, but only to those who enter as equals. Africa's story is changing. We are no longer the background of global politics. We are becoming one of its authors. The narrative of scarcity is giving way to one of potential. The image of instability is giving way to one of resilience, and the language of charity is giving way to one of cooperation. As I stand here, I think of the young student in Ouagadougou who studies engineering by candlelight, dreaming of building machines that run on our own oil. I think of the miner who works under the blazing sun, whose sweat adds value to gold that too often leaves his homeland. I think of the farmer who tills the earth not for export but to feed his community. These are the faces of sovereignty, not in government halls but in everyday lives. To them I say, your efforts are not in vain. The path we walk today will not be easy, but it will be ours. We will stumble, we will struggle, but we will stand again stronger each time. Because a nation that owns its future can never be conquered. Let the world know that Africa is not retreating from partnership. It is redefining it. We do not reject America. We reject exploitation. We do not fear the global economy. We fear injustice within it. We do not oppose progress. We oppose inequality. And we will never apologize for demanding respect. When former President Trump spoke of making his nation great again, he appealed to pride, sovereignty, and national renewal. Those same values drive us today. The difference is that our vision of greatness includes everyone, not at the expense of others, but alongside them. If greatness means reclaiming control of one's destiny, then Africa too seeks to be great, not in conquest, but in creation. To our allies in Washington and Brussels and Beijing and Moscow, we say this: Africa is open for cooperation but closed to coercion. The age of secret deals and silent surrender is over. If you wish to engage with us, come with transparency, not temptation. Come with fairness, not fear. Come to build, not to own. The world is entering a new era. Climate change, technological disruption, and shifting alliances demand new thinking. Africa has much to contribute to that global conversation. Our natural resources, yes, but also our human spirit, our innovation, our culture. We offer not just what lies beneath our soil, but what shines within our people. I believe that one day, historians will look back on this moment not as a confrontation, but as a turning point, when Africa decided that its wealth would serve its children first. When we stopped asking for permission to dream and started building the future ourselves. To the youth of Africa, I say this: the world will not hand you freedom. You must take it, not by force, but by faith, by education, by enterprise, by unity. The borders drawn by others need not define the boundaries of your imagination. You are the generation that will transform potential into power and resources into renaissance. And to the people of America, I say this: our stand is not against you, but for us. The same principles that inspired your revolution, liberty, justice, self-governance, live in us as well. We extend friendship, not defiance. We seek understanding, not division. We invite you to walk beside us in mutual respect. Let the oil beneath our feet fuel not conflict, but cooperation. Let the gold in our hills fund not greed, but growth. Let this be the century when Africa and America work together, not as rivals in competition, but as partners in creation. Because in the end, sovereignty is not a wall. It is a foundation. And from that foundation we can build bridges of trade, of knowledge, of respect. The world does not need more masters and servants. It needs more equals. Tonight, as our flag waves under the stars, we reaffirm a truth that no ultimatum can erase. Our land is ours. Our future is ours. Our dignity is ours. And in that truth lies not defiance, but peace. The peace that comes when a people finally take their destiny into their own hands. So let this be our message to the world, to Washington, to every capital that watches. Africa's resources are not for sale. They are the inheritance of her people, the foundation of her independence, and the promise of her tomorrow, and that promise we intend to keep.